thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was so fun to watch you play. Let's go back a little bit though, because I remember being very surprised in the beginning. That first vote for you, you basically had to choose a side, it seemed like, and you ended up voting out Helen, basically choosing to work with Carolyn and Jam Jam, which becomes iconic. Please tell me the strategy here.
Yeah, I don't I it's crazy because like I never expected to work with either of them. Like just looking
Mhm.
at people, not that like I have to judge someone who I'm going to work with based off how they look, but like just like an age thing even. Like I'm closer to Carolyn's son age than I am to her age. So it's like I think that like a lot of people were just expecting me to be with a Kane or a Matt or a Franny and just like other nerds or whatever. But
Mhm.
I think that I just enter the game myself and I really connected with Jam Jam out there. We had a conversation walking to get a tree mail and I was like, this feels good. like we could be, I think it started with like, oh, we could be like a really tight duo, and I think it looked as though to the audience it was just Carolyn and Jam Jam off on their own, but I would argue more it was me and Jam Jam at the beginning and deciding between Helen and Carolyn. And like our relationship wasn't highlighted on as much, mainly because I guess I leave and it didn't matter to that beginning stage. But regardless, I think that like I was very close to him, and then I was kind of reluctant with Carolyn because I didn't want to come off as phony if I'm like really good friends with Helen and Sarah, and then all of a sudden I'm now talking to Carolyn, who we are who they were targeting, and so. But once I talked to her, she was like, "You remind me of my son," and she was talking about her like her life, and I was like, I love her. Like this good, I don't know what it is, but it's a good feeling. She is emotional, but she's emotionally in tune. She is kind, but she's also kindly strategic. She has all
Mhm.
these amazing qualities about herself, and like those two things paired with the two of them, I just felt this weird connection. Like, oh my gosh, I could totally have fun and work with them, and I don't see them betraying me going forward, and I could totally see Helen and Sarah wanting to take me out if we were all at the final 5 or 6 together. And so I saw more of that side of Carolyn and Jamin that I felt like I could trust a little bit more. But I love Helen and Sarah so much. Like they're so nice. It just kind of came down to what I thought could get me the furthest.
Well, we see you really excel at the puzzles and we hear that you practice. Do you feel like your preparation really did help you in the game?
I do. I would walk into any puzzle feeling amazing. Not in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to definitely win, but more so I'm confident in my ability to make a puzzle like versus most anything else. And so whenever I saw one, I was like, whoo! I'm even holding little puzzle pieces. I can't stop fidgeting. I'm a fidgeter. Whatever. But yes, I think it really just gave me like, even if I didn't know the puzzle, it would be like, oh, it's a puzzle. I feel good about
Mhm.
those compared to anything else. So I do think that like that preparation gave me a little bit more of even just like a confidence in myself, and which was something I struggled with fire. I already was feeling worried about it like before I even started, and I kind of got in my own head. But I think like and then also like the weight thing. I don't know if it helped me that much, but it did. Like I didn't starve the whole time, so I can't imagine losing 10, 15 pounds at 115 pounds going in. I was already like on the cusp of being underweight, so I was proud of myself there. And then the books and stuff I would read, like the FBI thing didn't really work, but the like I don't know, like the relationship building books I did, I thought were really interesting, and I think great life skills outside of Survivor too. So I was happy with my preparation. I think it really did translate in the game.
Yeah, your relationships turned out to be really important. We didn't see it as much in the edit, but as I spoke with the other players who are getting voted out, everyone thought that you were with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like it's a little bit more difficult, and on especially on a strict time limit to display every relationship I built, because like even going to the merge, I had a Dorcas alliance with Franny and Matt, the dorks,
Mhm.
and we loved orcas, so we were the Dorcas. I had the Golden Doodle alliance with Kane. I was super close to Brandon and Lauren. I was like me and Lauren are like best friends. And obviously Carolyn, Jam Jam, and I were really good friends, and so I think like I had so many. It was I just remember having so many connection points. Everyone coming at me, I was like, I don't have many mansions all. But I think like I that was what gave me the opportunity to navigate which way I was going and always make few people feel good. Like I was with them after a vote. So like even after, for example, the after Brandon was voted out, I knew, for example, that Brandon was going home with Jam Jam, or like Jam Jam and I knew that, and Carolyn did too. But like Danny told me, he's like, I want the three Soka and you to work with us and take out Brandon. And I didn't want to write Brandon's name down because of he was on Ratu and we had a good relationship. So I convinced Carolyn to vote for Brandon, and she didn't even know why. I was like, we're voting for Brandon. So it looked as though to Danny, I voted with them, and I lied about that. So they thought that I voted. They thought I voted Brandon with them when in reality I voted for Franny, and then Franny thought I voted for Brandon. So and then Ratu thought I voted with them, which I did, I guess. But anyway, so it was I was always doing damage control, building my relationships, going throughout the game, really focusing on those connection pieces and not betraying people too soon or too late. And so I think that the timing I had was optimal.
We see towards the end here that it seemed like your goal really was to have the 3 Tika in the final 3. Now, what was your strategy with that?
Yeah, I think that I didn't want to go against someone like Lauren or Heidi, and now I guess watching it back, I'm like, oh, maybe they weren't as big of a threat. However, out there, yeah. However, out there, when you're in the final, there's 12 people left, and there's 5 Soka, there's 4 Ratu, and there's 3 Tika, and Tika's just navigating through. It seems like to the other players, like, oh, we're just at war and it's kind of working out for Tika. But in reality, it was very intentional in how we were navigating our relationships. So, but I didn't even want to risk the jury potentially seeing Lauren as like, oh my gosh, you're a mom. You're so, she's a mom. She's so inspirational. She's so kind. And so I didn't want that to potentially hurt my game because they see her as the lone rider of Ratu. And I'm sure you've talked with many of the Ratu members. They are ride or die people. They were scary how tight they were. I mean, we and Carolyn and Jamden were tight, but we weren't like going to die for each other. Maybe we would have. I don't know. But I wanted there to be no question that like if I was at the final 3 with Tika, like I was perceived as the front runner of Tika. I was the one who all the information translated through between groups, between the two of them. If you got Carson on board, you probably got Carolyn or Jam Jam on board. That was the perception out there. And so I felt very confident in the idea that I could beat them, even though they had amazing stories and their own incredible games. I think that like, especially after starting to be target at the final 7 and continuing to get through the votes, that target builds and it becomes as though you are like maybe an even better, greater threat than you actually are. But I ended up not being able to make the fastest fire in history. So,
yeah, let's talk about making fire. I mean, this had to be an emotional and stressful experience, but you did make a really good fire. Hers just was historic. My goodness.
I was so proud of myself. I'm not kidding. I would spend hours trying to make a fire, and Jam Jam would like literally be like scraping, like helping me scrape. And like I was so in my head, and like I talked a lot about like my own insecurities getting in the way, and like I struggle with that. But I was so amazed that I was able to do it. Like I didn't even expect myself to get a spark, and especially given Heidi had it in like 10 seconds. And so to like I remember when I got the spark, I was like, oh my gosh, no matter what happens, I did what I thought I couldn't do, and I can leave with that and be so proud of myself. And I had fun, and that's what I took away. I know everyone was asking me like, why are you so happy? I'm like, I don't know, but it was so fun, and I'm so proud of myself, of Jam Jam and Carolyn, of and the entire cast in that sense. So I enjoyed my experience. I got everything out of it that I wanted.
Now, when you are eliminated, you have to sort of immediately adjust to being on the jury for this final tribal. Did you like beeline it to tell everyone how great Tika actually was, and that?
Oh yeah, I sat down at the table at the Ponderosa, and everyone was like, no Tika was there. No one could really attest to what was going on, and I laid it all on the table. But my big thing was I don't want to try to influence the jury in the sense of like try to get them to vote a certain way. I wanted it to be organic. I wanted Carolyn and Jam Jam and Heidi to have to explain their games. And so but I did want, like, I was going to be honest too about the games that Tika played, that since no one knew everyone else's game. And so I talked about a lot about, like, okay, yeah, that was intentional. We did intentionally divide you all. But I really didn't get into specific. I would talk about each and every one of them in the sense of, like, they all should have a shot. They're all amazing people. And our entire jury went in with the sense of, like, they all have their own reason they need to win. We need to hear it from them, their own self-awareness, why they should win. And Jam Jam was able to do that the best out of the three of them. And I would have been happy with any of the three of them to win. I certainly wanted Carolyn and Jam Jam to win, but my vote really came down to who I thought did the best final tribal council speech.
Okay, so you had to been torn to vote
Oh my
between
gosh.
Carolyn and Jam
Yes, it's like
Jam.
choosing an arm and a leg. It was so hard. Oh my gosh. It was awful.
But Jam Jam was able to convince you in final tribal?
Yes, I think I also was considering, like, I want Atika to win. I've witnessed most of their games in person. I love them, and I feel like it would be the most satisfying to see one of their games secure the win. And so once Jam Jam was able to, in my opinion, have more of the jury on board from, like, just from the way he was talking about his game. He was so methodical in the way he explained things and how it was all based on strategy, that I knew I was like, I don't even know, like, maybe there are a lot of votes going Heidi's way, but I want to ensure that wherever the Tika votes are going, it's going on whoever I think the other people are going to vote, and that ended up being Jam Jam. Carolyn was, like, she talked about her journey, which was so beautiful to hear. I think, though, she didn't really explain a lot of, like, how she used her emotions as a weapon, and I think that's what a lot of the jurors were looking for. And she did use it as a weapon. Even for her own sake, I wanted her to explain that a little bit more to secure my vote.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Carson.
Thank you, Sarah. So good talking to you.